Hey guys, it's Jeff, and welcome back to another episode of the Real Life Podcast. Alyssa is not here, which means you're probably depressed, but I'm going to make you happy in a second with who is here, and that is my good friend, Trey Kennedy. Trey, how you doing?
What is up? What's up, Jeff? Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Dude, thanks for being on. Guys, if you don't know Trey is a living legend on the internet. Trey is one of the funniest people on the internet. Here's a fun thing I like to do. I like to describe what I think you do, and then I like to hear you describe what you think you do, right?
Okay, I like that. Yeah.
So what I would say is, for those who don't know Trey, there should be no one listening who doesn't know Trey. You essentially make, I was trying to think of this earlier, and now I actually forgot what I was going to say, but essentially I feel like you're a comedian in some sense, right? Or you're a comedian online, but I feel like you culturally critique in a lighthearted, sarcastic, funny way, just hilarious parts about our culture, whether that's dads, whether that's white girls, whether that's millennials. But I think and we'll talk about this in a little bit, what I think I love about what you do is you do it in such a kind way, if you can say that. Meaning I feel like, some people have a hard edge to them that's like, ooh, that's a little maybe too biting. But I don't know. And so I just feel like you just make hilarious videos on the internet that bring people joy, bring people life, make people laugh. Certainly me. Oh my goodness. I'm still going around the house saying, let's give him pumpkin to talk about. That one is hilarious, dude. Me and Alyssa still say that. And if you haven't seen his fall video, guys, you have to go watch it. But yeah, what would you say you do then?
Yeah, that was maybe better than I could say. But I think like you said, at the heart of it all is just truly things I see that's just annoy me. If anyone knows me, I'm always the guy who you're willing to say what we're all thinking, we're just not willing to say it. And that's kind of what that is online is the girls during fall video that, it blew up on Facebook and Instagram. And it was truly me seeing year after year, fall hits and girls on Instagram, all this, they'll do the same thing. And I make fun of girls a lot because I have a sister and I have 4 girl cousins that I'm all close with. And it's just been me and the girls growing up, and they're all like that, the girliest of girls. And it's just half the jokes are just things they're literally just saying, and I'm repeating in a sarcastic voice. But so it's great because I try to make a point of okay, we can all agree this is weird, but we can laugh at it too, because I'm not I'm trying not to be too mean about it. But
totally.
But yeah, I think it also stems from stuff I see and feel. I'm this is, why are we doing this? And then we just kind of put a voice to it comedically, and I think it just resonates with a lot of people.
Totally. Well, there is, I don't know what it's called, situational comedy or whatever. I don't know the word, but there is a type of comedy that it's actually my favorite, even whether it's stand-up comics in theaters, etc., more people like you who are storytellers, video makers, content creators, where it's the cultural commentary comedy. I just think it's my favorite style. I think it's because it kind of does make you go we are so just, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast from a serious standpoint, but our culture is we're more robotic and drone-like than we think. We just do things, and then none of us actually go, why do we do that? Why do we do that, right? Yeah. And I feel like your type of comedy is totally why do we say that, or why do we do that? Right. And yeah, 100%. The Fall Girls one was hilarious. Talking about I was listening to a podcast yesterday about, dude, it was super interesting. I get super into the deep investigative journalist type podcast, and there was one on the phrase basic and where that came from and some etymology there and all that. But they spent 20 minutes talking about just the pumpkin spice latte and the etymology there. And it was fascinating where the PSL has essentially become the icon of basicness. But what's crazy is in 2003 when they invented it. So this guy invented it in 2003. It was invented from Starbucks' standpoint as a thing that was basically meant to make them super unique, because they were actually starting to trend downwards. They were kind of normal and blasé, and they were just ubiquitous. Starbucks was everywhere. They had nothing to make them stand out. And so it was really interesting that they did the PSL was actually invented as a way to actually be super unique, which is the opposite definition of basic, which is really funny. And it took about, 15 years to go from kind of a really weird, they actually do surveys and tests with their drinks in the lab, and that one they said is scored farther on uniqueness scale than any other drink they've ever invented, just because it's literally pumpkin pie in a cup,
right?
It's weird, but it's crazy. So it's just crazy that it was the most unique. Now it's the most basic, but that was random commentary.
In my fall video, I didn't even make a joke about a pumpkin spice latte, because it's all maybe like a bell curve of like super basic, and now it's so basic that it might become like it's becoming. I didn't make a joke about it because like everyone's done it. Like
yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's almost like rebellious. It's come back around to be almost like rebellious now again. That was what they talked about on the podcast. They're like, we got to move on from like avocado toast, pumpkin spice lattes. Like, let's get some new basic things. So good, so good. Okay, so tell the people then. I mean, I'd love to even hear this because I've heard it in parts from you, texting, talking, hanging, etc. What would you say? Kind of give your overview of how you got started in this. I mean, I feel like we have a similar story where it was almost like we stumbled accidentally into internet stuff and then tried to just figure it out as we go. But I'd love to hear how you would kind of say you got started with it and kind of some of the landmark moments that, you know, whether it was a viral video or whether it was whatever, a platform transition. What would you say?
Totally. It was the app Vine. That's where it all started.
Oh, yeah.
I think
R.I.P.
Vine. That's wild. It's been gone for a while now. But it was that app came out in 2013, and I was a sophomore in college at the time, like living with a bunch of good friends. And a group of us, we just got into it, like just making goofy vines. Really, that was it. And basically, I got really into it, and like it went into summer, and it was like I was living with friends still, and I was just like doing a lot, and it was kind of weird. I got up to like, I remember getting up to like 5,000 followers or something, and that was like, you know, whoa,
it's life changing.
Like, yeah, right. And then one Vine, which I've still made videos on, and so it's like I still don't really understand why they go so viral, but it was how to wop and clean. I was like in my
that's how kitchen. I found you. That's when I first heard about you.
So that Vine, it truly took me from like 20,000 followers to 100,000 followers in like 3 days. And then like after a month, I was at 500,000 Vine followers. And like I was 20 years old, started getting calls here and there of like trying to pay me this and that. And I remember
totally
it's overwhelming to a 20-year-old, and I was excited. And fortunately, I have my dad's like a businessman and helped me kind of navigate that. And I kind of just did that as college went on, like thinking, because this whole thing's really cool because I grew up like super shy kid. I was like super reserved, and like I was always the goofy, funny guy amongst my group of friends, but no one saw that outside of that. And like, so I think that social media is so cool because there's so many people like me who wouldn't be here in any regard if it weren't, I wouldn't be in any kind of entertainment world if it weren't for social media, because that I had the confidence to post like in my room by myself, but I wouldn't be able to like go out and do it. And so I was still kind of mind like, this is a fun, like cool thing in college. I'm going to get my degree and move on and get a regular job, as they say. And then as Vine kind of was going down, I started kind of realizing like, I don't want this to go away. And I tried to shift into making longer videos on like Facebook and Instagram, and really fortunate as Vine was like straight up deleted, I was just starting to go viral on like Instagram and Facebook, and just kept that going. And kind of during the job hunt, I think I've posted before that like I was getting turned down for jobs. I got turned down for an interview for like a social media intern position.
You started looking at for jobs while you're like still have this platform and still have this thing?
So because there was a shift where I had like,
you weren't sure.
I had 2-some million followers on Vine, and it was like going downhill, and you could tell if you were like on it every day, like it's like you and me on Instagram every day. If all of a sudden like everyone across the platform was getting like 10% of the likes, you're like, this is not looking good. And I remember, and so I think we all kind of, people who were on it, we knew this was ending soon. And so like that revenue stream was, you know, obviously going away, and I was starting to build, but like, you're not really making money when you only have like 50,000, 100,000 followers making funny videos on like Facebook. So it was kind of a deal where I was looking for jobs, but I was getting frustrated with the job hunt process. I remember I got turned down for a social media intern position when I was like, this is all I've been doing the last couple of years. And it's interesting because there's that whole industry. It's a whole other conversation. It's so behind the curve, I think. But I was like, forget this. I'm going to graduate and just like do this. I moved to a new city with a friend of mine. I got an apartment, and every day I just like made videos on my cell phone. It was like kind of wild, but within a few months, it was just like, it was starting to work. And that was about 2 years ago. So here I am.
Dude, that's sick. I feel like not everyone made that jump. You know, there were some people that, had millions of followers, tried to make the transition, weren't able to.
Yeah.
What do you feel like you credit that to? I mean, obviously the Lord, come on, let's give him a little cred. But yeah, do you think it was just kind of your faithfulness? It sounds like of making videos every day. That's a lot of dedication that most people wouldn't do. Like basically like to start over when you like that you know, I'm like, man, I had all these followers, now I'm back at zero, start over. What would you credit how you made the jump so well to the point where I feel like you've almost usurped or eclipsed your Vine, like for sure your Vine following, because it's like bigger and better or more, maybe more, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like you've really crushed it, the transition. So how'd you do that?
I think it was a combination of things. Definitely, I forget, but like, yeah, where I'm at now has been like a consistent day in and day out basis of like focusing on making content for the past like 5 years. And I think consistency is the biggest thing for anyone online. Like I'm sure you agree or anyone else. You can't go away. And then I think I really enjoyed the challenge of like building a new platform and trying to figure it out. And again, just like on Vine, you finally hit that video that that kind of catches online and take you from that really tough grind of like slowly inching up to like 30,000, 40,000 followers to like, okay, a month later I have like 120,000, and then you have like a nice base where you can like build and yeah, definitely the following now is. The Vine following was bigger, but this is definitely better, where I think people are more engaged, and I'm making Vine was just a place too where everything I was making was gimmicky and like just like for likes, and now I'm making stuff that I think is funny and I enjoy, and so it doesn't matter as much if like it goes viral or not. So yeah, I think all those things combined kind of helped make it happen.
Talk about that. Talk about what you just said with the content you're making on Vine, the content you're making now. Was that, would you say you were making stuff on Vine because you felt primarily motivated by the business side of it, or like get views, get likes? Was there something internal there of like the approval of man you had to walk through? How did you get to the place now of just being like, hey, I'm content just because I feel like I'm making great, funny, quality stuff that will make people laugh, whether a ton of people watch it or whether a couple people? What was that journey like?
I think that's still an ongoing battle, but that I'm just always trying to get better at. But it's I've talked about like it never goes away, like wanting those likes. So if like Sarah, who has 1,200 followers, and she knows like a good post gets 300 likes and like one that's not gets 200, like that's the same thing I'm going through, whether it's like 80,000 likes or 60,000. Like I can literally post a video and it gets like 50,000 likes, and I'm like, which when you say that out loud and think about it, it's like, what am I doing? And so I always try to like, I don't want to like commoditize this following and be like numbers. It's like, oh, I got a handful of messages that said like, this is the worst day ever, and like your videos helped. And it's like, okay, let's focus there. Let's focus on, you know, kind of catering to those people and what I truly think is funny, instead of maybe making something over here that I maybe, you know, not putting full effort in, or I know it's going to get some likes, but it's kind of like soul sucking to make. I'm just kind of like, instead of kind of fulfilling more what I think is more important is doing something I'm truly passionate about and like, and I know will resonate with people who need it. And it goes in phases where, you know, lately I've posted a couple of viral videos and it's great, but there's seasons where maybe a month or two goes by and I feel like I'm in a rut, or creatively I'm just like not. And I think those little phases have been important to kind of pull back and be like, okay, when I'm not like gaining followers and stuff, this is kind of hurting and that's not good, and what's wrong, and trying to like evaluate that and kind of come back to center and say, okay, like I'm in a cool spot of privilege and platform to have like a positive influence on someone's day, and it shouldn't get caught up on like another few thousand likes.
Totally. I think, yeah, I know for us, we've had to deal with the same thing in a different way on YouTube or just some books or whatever it is. And I think it's more of a tangled web though than we like to believe, where I think we either say like, oh, I care all about the likes, and then now I don't care anything about the likes and I just do what I do. I think because there's a little bit of both for me, where I feel like you have to be anchored in yourself from an approval standpoint, where it's like, no, what people are saying, whether it's critique or good, etc., is like, you know, it doesn't define me. But I also feel like the platform isn't about us in a selfish way. The platform is about us serving people, right? You with comedy and, and putting a bright spot in people's day, or me hopefully with like encouragement or making people think. And so when you think about it like that as an act of servanthood, I know it's weird to talk about social media like that and people are like, oh, give me a break. And in some sense, totally, I get you. But I mean like I'm trying to produce things that are put good things into the world. And so then the feedback actually is really helpful. Like if it just falls flat, then of course it's not good to be like, oh man, I fell flat. Like I'm terrible at life. I need a whatever. There's still an aspect of faithfulness and not pandering. But there is a level with me that I've actually found it really helpful of like, I want to stay in that feedback loop because if it's an act of service, then I'm like, what serves people? And if that just totally fell flat, then that served no one, right? And so I just know for me, it's like really helpful actually to like look at what doesn't work and not just only try to do what works, because there's also an opposite principle of like Jesus's ministry got smaller the farther he went forward. How crazy is that, right? Starts with like thousands of people. He has tons of disciples and then thousands of people following him. And then all of a sudden at the end of his story, he dies on a cross and there's like his mom, right? And everyone else says peace. So there's a level at which that's also a true principle of like a weaning platform rather than a growing platform is sometimes a sign of faithfulness. But yeah, it's all intertangled more. And I think I like what you said about that, because I think it's true that you just gotta, because then one of the best places to be anchored then to serve people is kind of what do you feel like brings you that fulfillment of like making good work, bringing it into the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I just want to add that. Let's talk about, you said something kind of in the first couple of minutes I want to talk about with you and your personality and being shy, etc. Let's talk about that. What do you feel like? Do you feel like I just want to talk a lot about that. I got a lot of questions. Do you feel like social media has it helped you become more confident in yourself now off social media? Or are you still shy like outside of social media? Or do you actually, has it almost even polarized yourself more where you just kind of like, your funny, outgoing, loud self is on the internet and then you're even more shy in person? Talk about all that dynamics and kind of what you learned through that.
For sure. I think it's helped me a ton, like both on and offline. And it's been really cool that I think a big part of that is time and time again, I've just tried to like challenge myself and put myself out of the comfort zone. And that kind of the first, even before social media, it's just kind of cool to see how I'm here. But I think it's very, very, God making that happen. But it was start of college. I went with a group of friends who are musically talented, and no one in my family is, or no one I grew up with was, and they just kind of messing us around and stuff and being goofy amongst friends like I would sing, and I always liked singing. I didn't think I could sing, and I had friends who were like, dude, you can actually sing, you need to sing. They played instruments and stuff, and long story short, they taught me into like singing on a stage. And that was like, if you knew 18-year-old Trey, you're like, you couldn't pay him enough money in the world to do that. I was like, I actually kind of felt like, okay, I'm starting to kind of believe this. And like, if God gave me this kind of gift and I just like, I don't want to ever do it because I'm scared. Like at some point I think I'll regret it. So I did it, and it went well. And then that kind of led into Vine coming out. I had some confidence there to kind of create on there, and everyone's encouragement stuff has helped me get to that place. And I think just over time, being in situations where time and time again, I was out of my comfort zone and I had to do it. Getting a gig to like go make vines on the red carpet at the Billboard Music Awards. I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds fun. Yeah, crazy. But I was actually there. I was like, I mean, I have to do it. I mean,
yeah,
got me out here, and it's terrifying, but you do it. And then that overflows into my everyday life where like I can go into any kind of group setting. I feel confident. I can be fun. I can be goofy. And
what do you think changed? What do you think was it just kind of that repetition of getting in situations that were uncomfortable, realizing like, oh, okay, I'm not dying. This is actually not, it's uncomfortable, but it's not terrifying. And so those kind of reps, or what would you say? Yeah,
I think just absolutely putting myself out of my comfort zone time and time again and doing it and understanding like it's okay. And I'm just someone who innately kind of lands on that spectrum of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm too scared to do it, or it's going to fail. And so pushing myself to believe in myself and to do it. And that just over time gives you more and more confidence in both like yourself and your abilities, but also confident in the fact that if I make a fool of myself or something goes wrong, like life will move on. Because part of that happened too, or like maybe it didn't go so well, but it's like, okay, I'm still good. Yeah.
Talk about trial by fire. I feel like having to make social media or Vine things like kind of on the spot in front of people. Like I shoot a ton of videos, but if someone's around, that's tough for me, you know. Of course people I know, but if someone's walking by, I'm like, "Okay, stop talking," you know.
Yeah.
So that's hard, man. And I feel like that is a trial by fire that would grow. But let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's a really good point, because I feel like you're pretty introverted. Would you say that? No.
Yes and no. So I could talk all day about Myers-Briggs and stuff, but I land more, I would say ultimately extroverted, because I have a little alone time, but nothing's better than I'm with just like a close group of friends. Like,
okay.
Yeah. But
then that would be extroverted, because people do mix up those definitions, and usually it's like everyone loves people, everyone loves alone time, but what it really comes down to is what kind of fills the tank and what drains the tank. Like if you're a car, what's taking away the gas, what's giving you the gas, and is it people or is it alone time? And if it's people are really filling you up and that's kind of your ideal, then that's extroverted. And if it's alone time, that's introverted. So that's interesting you said that, okay, because I would actually put myself far on the introverted spectrum, which again is why people usually assume someone who's more quiet is an introverted, someone that's really loud, talks fast like me is an extrovert. Right. But again, it's not about energy. It's about where you get your energy. It's not about like your pace and your speed. And but I feel like I've had to deal with what you just said in an internal way, because I feel like one thing that I think is really, I guess you could say, annoying about the introverted extroverted conversation for me is that we let that pigeonhole ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm introverted, so I can be rude. Pretty much, I'm introverted. I don't need to talk to anyone. I'm introverted. I don't need to be a good follower of Jesus and actually talk to my neighbor. I'm or I'm extroverted, so I don't ever need to spend whatever. Like it goes both ways. But I know for me, that's like and I think what you were talking about is really good, because like we don't realize whatever we put one foot in front of the other every day with, that kind of solidifies that. So if we continually say, like you're saying, I'm scared, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I don't want to be uncomfortable, I don't want to be awkward. Well, then you're not even going to stay there. You're actually going to get more hardened in that every day. You're not going to even stay like, it's actually going to get worse. Meaning 5 years from now, if you keep doing that, you will be way more isolated, way more uncomfortable and awkward, and every little pain point you'll say no to, etc. But then on the flip side, I think also with uncomfortability, or another way to put it is risk. I think like to love people, you have to risk. To live your life, you have to risk. And I mean micro risk. I don't mean go jump off a cliff. I mean like go talk to your neighbor. You don't know how he's going to respond. That's like a micro risk. So that's just been a personal journey for me that kind of, I think, was interesting insight that you just said of like how, just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you don't need to love God and love neighbor, right? Or be like talk to people, or like not go hide out at the party. There's a difference between, it's just, you might get your tank filled by being alone, but don't be mean. So that was just really interesting. Okay. What would you say has been the hardest, maybe here? Yeah. What's been the hardest part of the 5-ish years that you've been doing this stuff, the internet, videos, etc.?
The hardest part, probably kind of what we touched on earlier of, because, people like you and me, like we've kind of created a business out of this. And so that, this has become my livelihood, and it's awesome and it's fun. And, I think I always want to be working for myself. I, definitely enjoy like getting up and doing it. But, I think the hardest part too, it's, created at times a lot of anxiety or something like that, where you, like I said, you get too caught up in the numbers, and you're like, even though you can kind of stand back at the end of the day and be like, I'm fine, I'm paying the bills, like it's good, like should I be doing more? I think you can kind of believe those lies, like God, I need to be doing more. I know, like, and I came across a quote, I forget who it was, but just like the productivity is an idol itself, and how we can kind of worship that itself when we're trying to like obsessively produce. And you could have good intentions way behind that, like I want to please you, God, I want to like do this with these talents, but then that like results in productivity kind of becomes the thing worshipped. And so it's always a balance there of trying to like, hey, I'm doing this and that work, like I can chill here, I can chill there, work here. So that's
how have you done that? How have you set up boundaries then to kind of try to be excellent while just being faithful, while being having boundaries?
I think I've done better in the last few months of kind of one, just taking it easy on myself and like, oh, I didn't quite get up. You know, I try to start my day at the gym every day and like wake up at 6:30, whatever. It's like, oh, I maybe woke up a little later today because I was tired, or I've done something where kind of ebbs and flows in my success of doing it. But like, I don't check my phone until like 10 a.m. I put it up by like 8 p.m., you know, so I know so many of us, and definitely what I'm doing, like we start and end days with the phone, and that creates more tension than you realize. Like you're waking up anxious because you ended your day like worrying about this. So creating those boundaries of like minimizing time, just kind of worrying about that or distracting myself with that, and that's been really beneficial too. And just a lot of focusing on a lot of travels involved in what I'm doing. So focusing on minimizing that travel as much as I can, and kind of really being in the city I'm in, and you know, putting effort into friendships here, and because that's
talk about that.
Like
why don't you like? Do you not like travel, or do you feel like you said like you just don't feel like it gets the ROI on the non-flashy goals? You know, in the sense of like, yeah, no, I want to be rooted with people and community. Talk about that.
Sure. I don't mind the travel, and I travel a good bit, and I'm gonna, you know, portion now. I'm not married. I'm in the city with friends. Like I'm definitely taking advantage of this time and trying to go hustle, and like I'll go travel whenever, because I don't have like a family or anything to kind of be grounded to. But I still try to not do it too much, because like you said, there's a lot of like, you know, I could be in LA once a month, but it's like I'm doing fine not doing that. I still go fairly often, but I'm just, I don't know. I've never really cared about all the flashy stuff. I'm more concerned with like having good friends, because I think that's been a gift to being, I don't know, successful as they say, or whatever, this young, and kind of seeing that, because I'm with, you know, I'm like 25. All my friends are hustling in that corporate world, and just kind of being like, this is all great, but the happiest, the most fulfilled I am is just like time with good friends, or point into that, rather than like trying to work nonstop just to make a few more dollars. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's the ROI on the end of your life, right? No one actually thinks about, okay, when I'm 90, do I want, you know, my kids and my kids' kids around a dinner table, and we all love each other and are telling stories, and we're creating this legacy and relationships with our friends and our community, you know, or if you don't, like I said, or if you don't have a family and you don't get married, then whether it is those deep relationships you've had for 30 years around a table, sharing stories, sharing life.
Yeah.
Is that the goal, or is it, just have a little bit more in the bank account, or to be viewed a little bit more, or to have some work that maybe the world said was more better and more, or it was more excellent, you know, but then something else got left by the wayside. That's a really good point. So one thing I want to talk about, which is really exciting and really hilarious, is your Christmas book, I would call it. It's like a joke book. It's absolutely hilarious. So you guys watching on YouTube and Facebook, right here, it's Dads Be Like, 'Tis the Season to Be Swaggy, which just came out, and the subtitles New Age Dad Jokes and Essays for a Millennialized World. You guys need to go on Amazon right now. Pick this up if you're listening on audio or watching on video. It's Trey. What is that, doing the yeet right there on the front?
Yeah, I'm hitting them folks right there in the front. That's
so good. Like that. It's so with the Christmas hat. It's so good. Yeah, I'm absolutely dying. But guys, you guys need to absolutely pick this up. It's hilarious. I can't think of a better stocking stuffer for any dad out there, whether you're me, like 29, or if you're like, you know, a peer of me and you have a dad who's 50 or 60. Put this in their stocking. It's absolutely hilarious. It's just literally like hilarious jokes that like dads say. I'm a dad joke fanatic. And then you got essays in there that are actually, again, back to that cultural critique, is really hilarious. One of my favorites was, I pulled it up. My favorite joke, just because this one is pretty much, I've probably said this 100 times in my life, or who I aspire to be, where it says, and they're all Christmas related. This one says, want to get the fireplace going? Just toss my mixtape in there.
There you go.
Mixtape's fire, bro. That mixtape is fire. And then you got some, what was the other? I love the nap essay. What was your favorite part about writing this, or which one did you even think was kind of the funniest? And then I love too how you included kind of some readers' dad stories at the end.
That was awesome. So yeah, this was a cool project, and it's something that was fun. I didn't really know what it would look like when I first started, but the writing was kind of fun, and Yeah, the Naps essay is definitely one of my favorite writing of,
I love what you said.
everyone has
What's the essay say? It says like, yeah, it says like call the ER. Like my dad asked, or he's taking a nap and he said I could have the remote or something like that, or whatever that line
yeah,
was. That was funny.
Like, yeah, or something.
Yeah, it said 911. It's pretend you're calling. It says 911. What's your emergency? Hi, yes, my dad just ate both turkey legs and a half pecan pie, and he's sitting perfectly awake in his recliner. Sir, we don't take lightly to prank calls. And then you said, he just said I could have the remote. And then 911 says, run.
Yeah, run. That's a cyborg or something.
So good.
And it was great. It was cool kind of, involving some of my followers. I just said, like, do y'all have any hilarious, like, Christmas stories about your dad? And people shared some, like, amazing stories. Like, what more, like, funnier than I could have ever thought they would. So, and those people were like, yeah, put it in the book, be funny. And so that's kind of a fun kind of group effort there, and share some really great stories.
This one was good. This one said, Jordan, one of the stories, this reminds me almost of Jimmy Fallon a little bit with like the funny tweets too, or whatever he does.
Sure.
At the end. And it says, Jordan said, this one was my favorite just because the visual. It said, as kids, we were all so embarrassed by our dad coming outside when we would get off the school bus. One year we had a Santa sleigh with fake reindeer in our front yard, which that alone is already like, you're pretty much, a Christmas fan if you have the whole sleigh and reindeer. And then it says, when we got off the bus that day, he was outside in nothing but his whitey tighties, riding the reindeer like a bull while hollering. We were mortified. It's still one of our favorite and yet scarring childhood memories. I mean, there's so many layers there. One, the fact that you have the full sleigh and reindeer in your yard, like you're a Christmas boss. Two, the dad goes whitey tighties, not for you, but also for your friends to view. And then three, he doesn't even sit in the sleigh and try to pretend like he's Santa. He goes riding the bull status on the reindeer. Cool.
Yeah, so
like that's dad aspirational goals right there for me when I'm like 50.
Yes, absolutely. I know.
Do you get any inspiration for your dad's stuff? Anymore? Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know, but my actual dad is like, we're very similar. Like he's super goofy, funny. He's not necessarily that embarrassing, and he's definitely not up with the
trends like you are.
As much as like my character is portrayed, but he's definitely there's definitely a little bit of inspiration sprinkled throughout that character in that book from my actual dad for sure. I don't know. I did a whole essay on like dads and cheese. I know that's probably not super ubiquitous, but I feel like a lot of dads just have an obsession with cheese. So
dude, I agree with that.
Like like I'm obsessed. There was always like a block of cheddar in the cheese. He had like a slice every day after work. It's so weird.
He needs that protein, right? He needs those healthy fats.
Yeah, I feel like dads just have to have at least one like weird thing they're doing. They're just like, what? How did this start? But
dude, that's incredible. But you guys, seriously, go on Amazon right now. I love like gift books like this where I feel like this is the book you put on your coffee table. This is the book you kind of just pass around on Christmas morning or have around just to open up and laugh. Like you can open up to any page and just start cracking up. Get it for your dad. Put it in the stocking stuffer. And it's awesome. So on Amazon, or I'm sure on your own website as well. Let's talk about for a sec. I asked people a lot of questions to ask you or asked our followers who follow you, said, hey, do you have any questions for Trey, etc. And there was a lot of really good ones. But one of the trends I noticed for sure was a lot of people wanted you to talk about your faith journey, your walk with the Lord, and how you kind of seem to do so well in a public non-Christian space. I think that's always something people are kind of thinking about and walking through, of whether that's in their workspace or whether that's in their job or their hobby or whatever. I feel like you've done a really good job of just being a light, being faithful, being an awesome presence in your craft. So yeah, maybe talk about first of all a little bit about your journey with the Lord, where you'd say you're at right now, maybe a few big moments that got you here, and then maybe talk about that with like work and how you kind of see that intersecting with what you do.
Yeah, totally. And thanks. It's always great when people say I'm a light or anything like that. That's super encouraging, and everyone's like kind message or anything like that means so much. I'm sure you feel the same way with words you get like that. It's like so necessary to keep going and keep going well. But I'd say I've just always obviously kept it clean, but I want it to be, like you said, I want it to be kind, and like none of the goal of none of the content should like offend anyone. It should maybe like raise some eyebrows and bring some good points to like, hey, that's weird, this is weird, but like ultimately it's not cutting anyone down. It's not it's not trying to be negative, but just kind of like bring positive joy to people, like, just like Jesus did and wants us to do. And I think with my personal faith, really got into it like end of high school. And then, as with anything, it's had its ups and downs, and kind of had some questioning in college and a lot of learning. And I think the biggest thing for me was the end of college. I got in a small group of that was led by one buddy of mine's fathers in the college town I was at, and that made a huge impact on me of like, this has to always be a part of my life. And I'm fortunate to have another thing like that in the city I'm in now. And currently it's just like I've said before, it's a lot of the work's done off the internet, just like staying centered and grounded and matter, and kind of I've always tried to reach a point where if social media for whatever reason gets like deleted tomorrow, like I'm not gonna like just crawl into a hole. Like, it's okay. Like I don't want my whole being to like be dependent on this like success on social media or whatever. And that comes a lot with just kind of writing out what I feel like God's really brought me to this point. And I'm just in a period now where I'm loving learning, and like I have all these questions that when you dive into, you lead to more questions, but it's fun and it's mysterious, like God is. And so I'm just doing a lot of reading and a lot of great discussions in our group of people here, and just kind of in a fun space of just loving learning more about God and who he is and how we got here and all of that. So
that's awesome. I feel like what I love too about what you're doing is I feel like you're living such a life of faithfulness and excellence, which I feel like are kind of these two things that if you can live with both of those in tension of like faithfulness to just do the work, but still trying to make the best work. And I think that's a really good witness to your peers, right? Like you're in a level with the amount of followers you're in, with the things you're getting invited to of enormously famous people, celebrities, etc. And I feel like what's really cool about you and what you're doing is that you get in rooms that like no one is in, but steadily hold this presence of showing people that like you're anchored in something else outside of fame and celebrity and social media and followers and likes and views, right? And it's not like you have to even preach about it. I do think it comes across that you just, like you said, like if this stuff disappeared tomorrow, you would be fine, right? In a soul level, when there's a lot of people that wouldn't be. Like there's a lot of people where social media and the way we connect online and celebrity and fame and all these kind of iconic things that they're the new religion in some sense. They're the new places we go, the wells we go to for depth and meaning and richness in our life. And I think you're just living such a great example of that. That you can still be that you're not throwing it away. You're not saying, "Oh, this is bad." You're living in it. You're doing it with excellence. You're being faithful, but also saying this isn't the reason. Actually, I'm able to do all these things in such a healthy way is because I'm not chasing it, right? And I think you're doing that really well. So I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, a couple questions. Yeah. What's up? Go ahead.
Yeah, you say that. I always go to these Coachella, these different like very Hollywood events. I don't know whatever you're saying. I like everyone assumes I'm in LA. I'm in Kansas City, and like I still think it. And not that I could definitely be pursuing Christ and doing this in LA. I'm not saying that, but like, I don't think people understand. Yeah, this is where the area around I grew up, and I love being here in the city and like focusing on my relationships rather than like going to chase that. I think that raised a lot of eyebrows to people, and Well, I think that's like you said. It's like that's true with everyone's job. I think whether you're in a corporate context, whether you're in an entrepreneurial context. I do think obviously we should, organically build relationships and tell people about the Lord, but I don't think we realize also how much our life can prophetically speak in a culture where stuff is kind of seen so much. Like we're in a culture where you can see other people's lives more than most. So then you start asking, like, why does he live in Kansas City when he could easily be probably having, making more money, doing more stuff, being with cooler, more famous people and more events and all these things that, in LA, like to me that rings like he's showing with his life without saying it that like he wants to be with his people and his community and things that like you're showing values, right? Everyone's life, everyone's
the way they go about their
Sure.
life, shows values. And it's not like saying, like you said, that there's no Christians in LA, etc. But we know that in this world that we're in, there is this like, go try to make it, etc. And some people do try to go there and make it, and it's awesome because then they're calling us to go there and be a light there and be a presence there. But I think, like you said, you raise eyebrows with just small little micro faithful things you do, and I think a lot of us don't give enough credence to that. Is that the right word? I think so. So, couple questions from the followers or people that wrote into us, and then I'll do we end with like a couple 3 or 4 questions we ask everyone. Awesome. One question that I thought was really funny or interesting that I want to hear from you is who makes you laugh? So you make a lot of us laugh. Who do you listen to? Who do you like that you think's really funny? Or that just like you have for comedic inspiration?
Great question. Who makes me laugh? So I'm on Instagram. So as far as like other people on Instagram that just like I can't get enough of, this guy named Reggie Coase. I think he's hilarious. I've never really talked or met the guy, but I think he's hilarious. Reggie Coase, Kouz. You probably see some similarities in our contact. He's also like a funny guy who can sing, and he kills me. This other guy named Renny, Renny. Hilarious. John Christ. I know this podcast is very familiar with. I'm sure he kills it. Hilarious.
You guys are brothers, twins.
Yeah, twins. Everyone gets us confused, but he's been a great inspiration. He's hilarious. And then beyond that, I've always really loved, as far as like comedians go, Will Ferrell. Can't get enough of him. And then like stand up, I love. Oh, what's his name? Aziz Ansari has some good stuff. Some of this, is not appropriate, but Aziz Ansari and Kevin James, I enjoy his stand up, and then Seinfeld's like the GOAT
icon,
as they say. But,
totally. Dude, I'm a Jim Gaffigan guy. You Jim Gaffigan guy? Maybe because I'm in like the dad kid world, so I get that. But he's funny.
100%. Yeah, dude. I watched him recently. I've been telling people this joke. It killed me. He was just like, he has this whole bit on McDonald's or whatever. Yeah. It's like if you ever tell someone you eat McDonald's, they give you a look like, oh, I didn't realize I was better than you.
Dude, he's so good. He's the most like self-deprecating. Like his humor is so, he's hilarious, man.
And like guys like Gaffigan, Kevin James, those like clean comics. When you're able to be truly funny while staying like family friendly is like
it actually takes more skill than people realize. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. So those guys are awesome. And
you talked about one thing we would be amiss if we didn't talk about, and you already mentioned a little bit, your singing. I mean, for those that don't know, Trey is an incredible singer. He's an incredible musician. He has music out, albums out, etc. Talk about that real quick. I mean, just where is that right now? Do you see that as like, I don't want to say hobby because I know it's not a hobby, but I mean, do you see it more as a personal fulfilling craft, or do you see that as like, oh, I want to continue to do that and hopefully build that, get that out to more people? Or is it just like an act of service, in the sense of just like my community? How do you kind of see that?
Yeah, great question. That's been kind of an interesting journey with that too, and music of like, because that was kind of my first like little viral video that got me like a little bit of following before the like dancing and cleaning stuff. Excuse me. But there was definitely a phase where like I was getting contacted by people, and I had to learn early on that a lot of people reach out about a lot of things, and it's easy to be like, oh wow, I'm about to be the next Justin Timberlake, but then you're like, okay, that guy didn't know anything. And so like that comes a lot of you kind of understand that there's just going to be a lot of failed promises out there. But there was a big phase where I was really wanting to pursue the music thing and thought that could be an avenue to moving forward. And I went into like a professional studio last year down in Texas with some like real producers and like a team of and like a couple songwriters and like
totally
to make
the album was awesome.
Thank you. And like, so like really go for it. And during, that was like a 9-month whole process. And while that was happening, I was like really doing well with like comedically on social. And so by the time it came out, I, had a couple opportunities when the talks with some labels, and it and really foreseeing what that future would be of like 8 or 9 months on the road, like this grind of like trying to make this happen, and what my life currently was, where like I was doing fine making videos in my home and having fun with that. It kind of shifted to like, I'm going to pursue more of this comedic thing, and music can kind of, like you said, be a side passion, like fun, creative outlet. I still do a little of it. I'm still like, we'll keep here and there putting out some music. Just not really all that concerned with profiting off it or making like any kind of career out of it, but it's just fun and maybe some added value there for anyone who cares, and just kind of trying to use that talent to in any way. But yeah, that was kind of the long story short of how that all came to here we are today. But
that's awesome. Well, don't stop doing it, because it's amazing. I think you have a gift for sure. And I think, really, really good at that craft. So continue to do it. Okay, let's end with a couple questions that we like to ask everyone. So the first one is, what's your most life-giving rhythm right now? So kind of like ritual, and I wouldn't say routine, because I think routine is things you do, like brushing your teeth. Rhythm, I would say, is stuff that like, routine is the broccoli. Rhythm is the steak, if you're not vegan. Like basically, what's the thing in your life that actually is kind of that little, whether it's working out, whether that's reading at some part of the day, whether that's a family dinner, whatever,
Like daily rhythm, weekly,
daily
rhythm,
or weekly,
whatever.
Daily or weekly, I'd probably say.
I'll do both. Daily, I kind of said earlier, I wake up and go right to the gym, and that's been awesome. I got into like working out. I didn't at all for a long time. I got into like a year ago, and just starting that day, just kind of clearing your head and listening to like a podcast or like good music while I'm just kind of starting the day there. That's something I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. And then weekly, I kind of talked about every Tuesday night, we have a group gather at my house and talk about God and life and what's going on. And that's been, I do my best to schedule travels around that Tuesday night. I think that's a top priority, and that's been super life-giving and recharging and helpful.
Did you organize that? Is it through a church? Do you lead it? Is it some friends? Is it like singles, married people?
Great question. Me and one of my best friends, also my roommate, we kind of, I guess, started it, whatever. Don't love that word. We kind of felt we had abilities to kind of lead and facilitate. So we
open the room, get people there. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of over the course of a year, this people who knows these three people, and they bring them, and like, it's been a lot of in and outs, but we have like a really solid group of probably like 15. And that's, and we kind of most of the time lead it. People will step in and lead it at my house. Yeah. So it's great.
Dude, that's awesome.
And that was through like, it's cool too, because it's not like connected to a specific church. There's different people in there go to different churches. There's some singles. There's some people who are dating. There's people who are married. So yeah, it's a great group.
That's awesome, dude. What number 2 is not your favorite book in history, like forever, but what's kind of the last book that you feel like really struck a chord with you, that you really enjoyed, or something of that nature?
I just read this book called Learning to Speak God from Scratch. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, is that Jonathan Merritt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan's awesome. Yeah, he's the man. It's good, huh?
It was just it's a book on language essentially, and like stuff you don't even think about. And I just found it fascinating and had a lot of good things to think about. And I thought that like just little things like how our language in English has become so fixed because like the invention of the dictionary, like, however many hundreds of years ago. And like, but how before then you would maybe you would read the scriptures and you'd be in your village and be like, what do you think this means? And I think there's a lot of kind of beauty and mystery there, because you couldn't just go online or go into a dictionary and say, this is what that word means. So it's just kind of stuff like that fascinates me, because you don't even think about that. Like, oh yeah, they didn't have dictionaries then. This would have been really difficult to understand.
Totally. Well, you actually had to submit to other people for help. You know what I mean? Like we continually create a system where we can get it ourselves without. We don't want anyone's help. We want to be individually autonomous, and we've proliferated ourselves in a million different ways.
100%.
And one of those being language and story and words.
Yeah. So, and you had to allow so much more room for God there to like to speak to that or like lead you to a place rather than just like opening up a dictionary and a lot of little tidbits like that. But I thought that was fascinating.
That's good. Really, dude, have you checked out the Why Liberalism Failed book yet? Have you got it yet?
Yes, that was going to take me maybe a little longer. Like you said, that
I told you like 3 times. I was like, it's an amazing book, but you got to chew. But
it's been great. I'm like 50 pages in or something. I'll probably take my time with that one. But yeah, that one's good. But yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a dense one, but it is one of those ones that does give you a framework of, oh man, connecting the dots of, and if you guys have heard me talk about that book's not about liberalism in the sense of politically, it's liberalism in the sense of like an ideology like communism, et cetera, and liberalism with, back to what I just said, of that individual autonomy. The individual is the most important value, how we got there and how that kind of self-implodes at certain points in culture. Really interesting. But yeah, it's like, dude, can you just like, I like big words, but can you just chill, with that book? I'm like,
yeah. Can you, this, I don't even know.
But it's one of those ones where the content's so good. Okay. What's something you like to talk about or are passionate to talk about, but don't usually get to talk about or don't get asked about, or maybe it's not kind of in your lane with internet stuff? And another way kind of to frame this is basically, what are the conversations that you get really fired up about with your friends around the dinner table that kind of are off brand, right? Or just, you don't have a space to talk about it on the internet. So like, whether that's college football, in the sense of like, you love a certain team, but you do X on internet, or, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people, because the internet, they have like a stream, they have a lane they're running in. So what's that thing that you don't really talk about? I would say music or stuff like that, but people know you do that now, but something like that. What's something that a conversation you like, or a topic you like that no one probably knows about except your friends?
Yeah, I think, I even put this on the line a little bit, but I'm such a big fan. I went to Oklahoma State, and so I'm the biggest Oklahoma State sports fan. So I go to a lot of the football games every year. I travel around to go to them, and they're having a tough year, but it'll be all right. And that's a lot of my friends went there, and we constantly talk about it. And I just love. I've gone to a good place of like back in the day, OSU, Oklahoma State could lose, and I'd like, my day is done. Don't talk to me. Like, I had to lose it, and now it's like, okay, I literally have no hand in this, like whatever, but it's such an amazing way to like, just like reunite. Hey, well, let's all go to this game in November and like hang out with friends, and just like a whole day of tailgating. It's like just the best. And I love that. And then another really random thing that for sure no one knows is I've gotten into like brewing my own beer with my friend of mine.
Dude, home brewing it's awesome, and it's a science, man.
Yeah. So me, my other roommate I'm really good friends with, we had just gotten into, very like beer snob type thing, which is so annoying, but like, loving like the real craft beers, right? And we're like,
the IPAs, like you put in your white people's, be like, or that dude.
Very
I still go around the house with that video, and my favorite one was do I smell lavender? Is that lavender? That's like
that is lavender, dude. You have an oil diffuser, dude.
So good. Your white people be like, and then IPAs. The Patagonia, and then that subtle look you give at the end where it's just the head nod. So good. It's so
I
good.
do that all the time.
But you talk about the IPA in there, which I think is funny too, because mostly only white people drink IPA. Right. But is that fun, or what? What do you brew it at the house?
Yeah, we just brewed in the house a few months ago, and that's it's fun. It's not too dissimilar from just like trying to cook or something. You follow a recipe and you do it, and we made a whole batch and brought it to like one of those game days I was talking about at the tailgate, and we made funny little like custom bottle caps on it so it could look. So it was like, it's fun.
Dude, that's legit. I remember, so my buddy, when I was in college, my buddy was really into it and would make it. And I think he even might have sold it and kind of did some things, and he really enjoyed the art and the craft of it. But when he first was, I was there when he was first starting, and some of the first ones were like trash, right? Like, I mean, water with carbonation and weird flavor. Like, did you kill it from the beginning and get lucky, or is there some ones that you've tried and you're just like, I'm tossing the batch?
I think we've kept it really simple with the simpler recipes, and the first batch was like definitely drinkable and not too bad, but you're like, I mean, I could definitely buy a beer than this.
Have you gotten to the place where you've made your own beer and it's been like, man, this is better than what I can buy, or I like it better?
Getting there, and we want to get to this point. And that's what's cool too. And I try to tell people, like with the internet these days, like one of the main reasons I started doing this is because I had this post a while back. It was like a photo. It's like a quote like, "So what are your hobbies?" And it was just 3 photos of me by like my TV and my bed and my fridge.
Yeah.
It's like,
people love that one.
I've been in
that
so
one got
many settings.
ripped and went viral. Where I feel like you weren't.
Yeah, it did.
No one tagged you or anything, but I was seeing that on all the meme pages, etc.
Yeah, and it's like, because I think 95% of people, if you're like, "What are your hobbies?" They'd be like, Netflix. Yeah, and it's like Netflix is great, but you want to do something worthwhile. And then nowadays with the internet, like you never know. Maybe me and my buddy get so into this and it's good, and 10 years from now he opens a brewery, and that's all because we decided to like spend a few hours of our month like trying a new hobby.
Yeah.
So that's something that I just want to always try to be.
I really like that, and and you learn a ton of stuff. That's actually, so I do a weird thing where every year I try to learn a new craft or hobby, you could say. Basically, where it's like, I'm not going to make any money from it, but I want to do it because I want to. I'm passionate about it, etc. And yeah, I think a couple years ago it was like Photoshop. I really wanted to learn that. 2 years ago, I think was woodworking, and then last year I think was like cooking and grilling and getting a little bit more into the science of food. And it's interesting, like what you say, they compound, right? Like when I did Photoshop and then I moved on, I don't not know Photoshop now. I actually know Photoshop, and now and for the rest of my life, right? And now woodworking for the rest of my life. So there's this cool compound where when you keep adding crafts, and I know for me, that is a huge, I was 100% inspired to do that for parenthood. Like for me, I'm like, man, I sit at a computer all day and I write. Like that's a hard craft to pass on to kids, but I want to be more filled up with skills and talents and ability to go through life and create excellent and good things. So to pass them down, right? And it gives you a bunch of excuses to hang with your kids. And so, which I've talked about that a lot with the Industrial Revolution, where we don't do any work with our kids anymore. Okay, last 2 questions. If there were 26 hours in the day, what would you do more of?
Ooh, great question. I would want to say and really try to just spend that more with people. I love hanging out with my main people and then meeting new people. So getting involved in other things in the community, maybe volunteer type things, that would be ideal. Maybe a little more sleep. I get enough sleep. That's good. I try to focus on sleep. But these days people don't sleep, but
no, that's a good one though. More people. You're the first person to say that. That's good. Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Cause I don't know. I've reached such a point of like, I don't know, maybe I'm just boring, but I feel like I've done a lot of cool stuff, and it's just like hanging out with my best friends is like the most fun and fulfilling thing. So I just want to do that. Yeah.
Dude, I love that. And I think you're such a witness to that with someone who has more followers than anyone can ever get, more, stuff than anyone can ever get, goes to events, all these things, all these aspirational things that a lot of people have. And you're like, I just want to be with my people and I just want to hang out. Man, I think that is so actually like deeper than we think, and how important that is, and how you're finding that to be true. And so I love that, and that witness you're doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, last question. What are the top 3 things you are loving right now that are free?
Ooh.
And you can cheat, in the sense of like it's something someone bought for you, but you have it now. It can be an app. It could be, chapstick that was in your stocking. It just can't be something you bought, but what's something that you enjoy that kind of was free to you? Or totally free, like something that you just found on the side of the road.
Give a shout out to, Sonos?
Dude.
The speakers. Crazy.
Dude, we are obsessed.
Obsessed with Sonos. So I've got, for whatever reason, people are so nice. I've connected with this guy. I think he works for Sonos, and he's hooked me up. And like,
oh, it's not fair, bro. It's not fair.
I know. And so I know it's not, but it's been awesome. Like movie nights, whatever.
How long have you had them?
So I just keep kind of slowly growing it, and then so recently I got hooked up with the subwoofer.
Oh, dude, that thing changes the game.
Changes the game. So yeah, we tried that out, and I haven't watched like a really cinematic, like action-packed movie yet, but I want to crank that up and do that soon. But I love
awesome. Sonos, dude. It's just so. Yeah. Have you got it voice activated yet with Alexa?
No, I need to do that.
Dude, it's life-changing. Like literally 24/7 we'll just be like, Alexa, play this on the Sonos, and she just all throughout the house. And it's like the Apple of speakers. It's clean, it's slick, the app's nice. That's a good one.
Right. So clean. It's a great question. What else?
a thought process or like a little thing you heard on a motivational video that kind of stays in your head. Anything that's free. What are you loving right now?
Gosh, I'm gonna think of one, dude.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. No, this one puts people on the spot. You're not the only one. Past ones have been working out, kind of like family time, walks. Just what are kind of the things that fill you up?
I feel like everything I do, I buy, dude.
Are you having an existential crisis right now?
Yeah, really. It's like, wow, I don't do anything that's free. Pathetic.
Okay, no, go. We'll do that then. What are things? We'll change it then. Make it easy for you. What are 3 things? Well, you already said 1. What are 2 more things then that you're just loving, free or paid?
So you gotta get some more free hobbies, I guess. So one of my favorite things ever has become like and that's something I want to do in the future. You mentioned cooking, like getting into cooking and stuff. I'm already kind of getting into home brewing or whatever, but I love just like good food and drink. And I love, cause like everyone, when you hang out with someone, it's like, let's go to dinner or whatever. And like the best conversations you have are just like eating with somebody. So like, that's like my favorite thing ever. And what I've tried to do more and more recently is like get a couple good friends and just go to like a nice, not overly nice, but, I ain't balling like that, but like I think a really great restaurant that's like good food, good drink, and just good conversation is like one of my absolute favorite things ever. And then another thing that is free I'm enjoying is fantasy football.
Oh,
that is people don't know that is my obsession. I'm in this league. This is not totally free because we do a buy-in, but I'm in this league. We've been together. We've been doing it for like 10 plus years since we were like in middle school, and it's wild. It's cool. As guys, I always say like, dudes gotta have like a thing to like stay in touch, And
that's the thing. Yep.
Yeah. And
guys have to have shared activity. You don't just meet for coffee with your buddy.
Right. It's like you have a thing like, oh, I have my buddy over here, we talk about working out. And then because we have that thing, now we talk about actual life things. Yep. But so fantasy football, these guys I would never see. Some of them I may never see again, but we stay in touch, do this thing, and it's like the most competitive. We're just always, and I got the whole Sunday ticket thing for football, like where they just play the game. So Sunday afternoon, talking trash in the group text, following the scores, watching the game, order some chicken wings. Like that's when I'm chilling and in town on a Sunday, like that's a great use of a few hours on Sunday. I love that. So, dude,
you're more of a football guy than I thought you were. Like you're all in. That's legit.
Yeah, I love the sport. Like I said, I feel like I've done a better job of like emotionally disconnecting, enjoying it for what it is.
Totally.
Like this.
Well, especially growing up down in the South a little bit, man. That's like you can, like you said, it can ruin your week.
Deal.
It's a big deal. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, sweet. Well, you guys, first of all, if you're watching on again, Facebook or YouTube, here's the book, Dads Be Like, 'Tis the Season to Be Swaggy. It's guys,
folks, come on.
It's hilarious. You need to get it. Like you need to get it. It'll like, I don't know another book that you can just order and kind of flip through and laugh and then do it again and keep it in the bathroom, keep it in the coffee table, keep it in the kitchen, buy one for each room. I'm going to probably get a bunch to actually give as gifts, especially to fellow dads of mine or to friends of mine to give to their dads. Cause I feel like it's like cross-generational fatherhood. Like I'm a 29-year-old dad, but that's also hilarious to like a 70-year-old dad. And almost the 7-year-old dads are almost the ones that like are kind of even more like cheesy dad joke like this. I'm starting to see my dad joke vibe come out a little, but dude, it's hilarious. Okay, how would you, anything you want to say, anything you want to close with? I mean, I'm sure most people have followed you and watch your stuff, but anything you want to push them towards or any last couple words or whatever?
Thanks for having me. It was great. Just, hit me up. Trey Kennedy. Should be able to find me anywhere and just come say what's up and appreciate the love.
Totally. All right, guys. Hey, so when I post this podcast, we will do I usually always do a little Instagram post of kind of a recap of that week's podcast and get the conversation started. We definitely will have to hop in the comments on that one, you guys, if you're listening, on what's been your favorite Trey Kennedy video. I tend to lean a lot more of the viral. Like I love the fall one recently, or those ones I remember. The WAP one and the cleaning one still to this day is hilarious. But your dad's one, man, I would actually probably say your dad's ones are my absolute favorite. So yeah, let us know in the comments, you guys, what your favorite is. And man, thanks for coming on. This was a blast.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.